Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and Avatar: The Last Airbender is officially out on Arena now, so we're going to dive into the format head first with a draft every day. Without further ado, let's get into our Pack 1 Pick 1. This looks like a pretty excellent pack all around. We have Epic Downfall for a great mono-colored removal spell, very efficient. It only exiles creatures with mana value 3 or greater, so it can't get rid of anything. Can't get rid of, very importantly, Earthbended lands, because those are technically mana value 0. However, it can still deal with all of the biggest, scariest threats in the late game outside of those big, giant lands. So I think that that's probably worth the efficiency to take the trade-off that it can't deal with anything like the sold-out can. So I like Epic Downfall here. Love starting with a mono-colored removal spell. It leaves you very open to anything you get past. There are other great options here. Sandbender Scavengers try and play that black-white sacrifice deck. Could be pretty fun. Fire Nation Attack seems like a really strong card for firebending decks. The firebending ability in this set allows you to get mana when you attack with your firebending creature. So you'll get red mana equal to its firebending count. Most of them will give you like about 2 mana on average whenever they attack with firebending. And so you can use instants, or you can cast instants with that mana. So that 5 mana make 2/2s with Firebending can actually be more like 3 mana, sometimes if you're really lucky, like 2 mana, because you can spend all your Firebending mana to cast that in the first place, and then obviously use the Firebending mana that the additional tokens give you to do the flashback later. So I think that card's more impressive than it looks up front. Pick 2 here is not super exciting. I mean, we could just stick to black here and take a decent removal spell. Imagine this card is a 3 mana sorcery that gives something -5, -3 till end of turn. That would already be a perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable removal spell, so I don't hate this at all. But I have been a little bit impressed by Professor Zay on our opponent's boards and those kind of blue-red spells decks. The Boulder looks fine, but I'm just going to stick to mono black for now, keep it nice and simple, and that's going to work perfectly fine for us, getting a pick 3 Heartless Act. Very depressing artwork, but very great spell. Certainly take that. Solid pack all around, though. Another Epic Downfall? Okay, so black is wide open. Starting with pack 1, pick 1 Epic Downfall has worked perfectly because it's just led us into pack 1, pick 4 Epic Downfall. Choose our secondary color based on whatever is the most open later in this pack, and Sparring Dummy going pick 5 is somewhat of a sign for green. I think this card is quite solid. Alternatively, though, the Jasmine Dragon Tea Shop can fit into any deck. It is a colorless land if you're not casting allies, but it's a land that gives you some flood prevention, giving you a really good mana sink when you're flooding out. Even when you're just hitting lands, you can still make a 1/1 every single turn, and that 1/1 has a relevant creature type. There are a lot of cards in the set that care about allies entering the battlefield or attacking, or they buff the allies, stuff like that. So I like the Tea Shop a lot here. I also like the Sparring Dummy. Sparring Dummy, of course, keeping like every turn you tap this and you get a chance of drawing a card off of it. If you only draw 1 land off of it, it's already a good card, but if you spam that enough to draw 2 or 3 lands, that card is ridiculously good, so I do think that's pretty high on the order, but I'm going to try out the Tea Shop here. Get a nice mana sink. Pick 6. You have to be an aggressive deck for Fire Nation Engineer, right? You have to keep getting attacks off every single turn, but it can accrue a lot of value over a long game. So it seems perfectly fine, and we are, again, very deep on black right now, so I think I'll try out the Fire Nation Engineer on that one. Pick number 7, very solid black combat trick now with Azula Always Lies, but there's also a very late Firebending lesson. I think this card's going to be excellent because it is instant speed removal in red. Not only is it instant speed, but it's flexible. You can cast it for 1 or you can cast it for 5. This being a 5 mana instant speed removal spell means that it is a really good spot to dump your extra Firebending mana into because it's a pretty expensive instance in that sense. I think Firebending Lesson is the nuts. I mean, Azula Always Lies is a good combat trick, but I feel like Firebending Lesson pick 7 is a much bigger sign. Pick 8, now we can just take Azula herself. 4 mana for a 4/3 with Firebending 2, and whenever she attacks, you lose life and create a clue token, so essentially, all by herself, she is going to draw you a card every time she attacks, because she gives you the 2 mana you need to sacrifice the clue that she makes. which is pretty nice, but there's other flexibilities you can get, other synergies you can get with cards that care about whenever you're sacrificing stuff, or if you're playing a bunch of other instants to spend that mana on. Some cool stuff you can do with Azula. Pick number 9. Not the craziest pack. I think Rebellious Captives looks like the strongest card to me. It's your 2-mana 2/2 on curve and also a pretty powerful late game effect, but it might be weak enough to just speculate on fixing over it. I think I'm still going to take that, though. Take the Captives there. Pick 10. Fire Nation Raider looks fine in red-black. You can sack those clue tokens pretty easily because you can use your Firebending mana. And we should be attacking a good chunk if we end up in that color pair. Pick number 11. Ruffians has a flexible mana cost thanks to its hybrid mana value. White Lotus Hideout could be okay in the right deck as well, but we're definitely in black, so we'll just take the hybrid black mana creature. I don't really like Daily Indoctrination. It's a very... It feels bad at all points of the game. I mean, like, looking at your opponent's hand, making them discard a card in the early game is fine. So I guess the first mode is good in your opening hand. But if you draw this in the late game, getting a 2/2 is not going to cut it, and your opponent could just be out of cards in their hand anyway. I basically don't feel like 2-mana sorcery Earthbend 2 is ever good, because if you use it early, you want to keep tapping that land for mana at that point. Can't really afford to keep just attacking with that thing. And if you draw it late, then it's like pretty small ball. It's pretty little. Anyways, pack 2, pick 1, we get a rare black spell. I don't think this is very good in our deck, though. Because we have so many non-creature spells, we have a ton of efficient removal spells, and it's just going to shoot us more than it shoots our opponent. It's a 2-mana 2/2 first strike, but that's not that good of a body to be worth the drawback for our deck, I think. Honestly, just take like an excellent green removal spell instead, speculatively. Grabbing allies at last. Pack 2, pick number 2. There's a Sold Out for an excellent removal spell, albeit a little bit expensive. Or there is Zhao Ruthless Admiral, which is a very fun one with our clue token production. If we get some more of that, we have Azula and 2 Fire Nation Raiders right now. So now whenever we sack a clue, we're buffing our whole board. Getting a lot of damage in. Don't really have the creatures yet to go that wide and get that much damage in. Sorting all of my non-creature spells outside the mana curve now. Yeah, it's like very low on cheap creatures currently, where I feel like the Sold Out is just the safer pick. Just be on a million removal spells here. This Gather the White Lotus seems like a really strong card that definitely could make it worth drafting a mono white deck, but obviously you can't take it pack 2 when you've drafted 0 white spells so far. But I do want to shout that card out. It seems very good. Speaking of very good, this could be nice for this deck. We're a bit of a slower deck, so we have time to get all the value off this. 4 mana for 2 1/1s, a 3/3, and a mountain. Seems fine. Yeah, I'll take that over Deadly Precision. We have a lot of other better removal. One thing I don't like is we're very clumped up on 4 mana stuff, so we'll have to keep that in mind. So get a good 2 mana card instead. 2 mana 2/2. Can be blocked as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn. So if you sacrifice a clue during your turn, then she's unblockable. And for 1 mana, you can sack another creature and create a clue. You can only do that during your turn, so you can't like chump and sack and make a clue. And that can still be pretty good. Yeah, I'll try out June, the Bounty Hunter here. Pick number 5, another Fire Nation Engineer. It's a card that could stack well in multiples, but again, it really requires a lot of cheap creatures to go with it, which is not something we're seeing a lot of throughout this draft. It's likely safer to just take a Rakdos dual land and make sure that our mana base is working well. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Pick number 6. Another Swamp Snare Trap is a fine removal spell. There's also Lowenly Twin Tutors. Noble creatures and lesson spells you control have lifelink, so they are great if you have a bunch of firebending lessons. Lifelinking firebending lessons would be nasty. And they can tutor for the Firebending lesson. They can also tutor for the Azula. They're a bit hefty of a mana cost, but again, we have a lot of removal here, so I think I can afford to speculate on them over taking just another removal spell there. They could be pretty strong here. Take a Merchant of Many Hats. This could be a good creature to just trade off early and buy us some time to get to our like 2-for-1 value plays later, like Lowen Lee and our Azula and Fire Nation Raiders. Just stall the game out a little bit, get an early trade off. Here's a finisher. Need some random way to end the game. Here's just a giant creature to do so. Take that over Boomy Bash, again with just the Mountain of Black removal instead. Do not think this will be a good Wandering Musicians deck, but it could be a fine Canyon Crawler deck, where this is a filler finisher that also swamp cycles if we are mana screwed in the early game. Pick 10, nobody on the mono white deck. Sad day for Gather the White Lotus. Again, seems real strong when you're mono white, but not everybody can be mono white. Throw a bunch of off-color cards into the sideboard as we move into pack number 3 now. All right, we opened up a green-white rare, unfortunately completely off-color, but a strong card for an allies deck. We'll just take another really efficient removal spell here with the Heartless Act, grabbing that over Disciple or Merchant. I guess either of the Merchants, the Merchant of Many Hats or the Beetle-headed Merchants. This is quite a nice pack where I'm interested in multiple of these cards. I like another Firebending lesson to go with Lowen Lee. I also like the Cave of Two Lovers, just accruing a lot of value off of just one card. And then the Corrupt Court Official is also pretty decent. We don't have a lot of 2-mana creatures yet still. But I go for the Firebending lessons here. I think it helps us have a little bit more to do early game and also hits really powerful synergy with Lowen Lee. Pack 3, pick 3. Judy can turn our clue tokens into more 2/2s if we have enough of them. Can also turn our 1/1 tokens into 2/2s. Can turn our Merchant of Many Hats into a 2/2 and then pick it up from Graveplate again. I think Judy has some okay synergies here. Certainly not the strongest Judy deck. There are much better things you can do with her in like Black-White, where there are a lot of cards that trigger every time you sacrifice something. But she looks pretty okay in here, and probably better than anything else in this pack. Pack 3, pick number 4 now. 5/6 Menace Mongoose Lizard. Pretty bad removal spell for this deck. Random Tank. A redirect spell. Or try to splash in a green bomb rare. Now I am wishing I took that black-green duel over whatever I took in that early pack, because this seems quite strong. I'm going to take this rare. I don't know if we're quite going to get there in terms of splashing it in, but nothing in that pack's really powerful enough to not speculate on it, I think. Another Firebending lesson, tripling them up with Lowen Lee. Take that over Uncle Iroh mainly, which is a cool card, but we don't have that many lessons. It's just one Firebending with only 2 toughness. A little bit hard to cast as well. Double red and 1 in this deck. Yeah, that's an easy Firebending lesson. Pick number 6. Another Canyon Crawler. I don't think this is a particularly good Beetle-headed Merchants deck. I'd rather take a Canyon Crawler here. Foggy Swamp Visions is a very interesting card. It's probably a pretty wild win condition in like constructed formats, but as far as draft and sealed go, it's going to be pretty hard to get your value out of this card, because you're just making a temporary copy of whatever you are reanimating. Like, you reanimate a bunch of stuff for a single turn, you don't give it haste or anything, and then you just sack it in the end step. It's like the idea is you get a bunch of enter the battlefield value, or if there's a bunch of haste creatures, you could haste them. Take a Judy here. Twin Blade seems good for a deck that has a lot of fire breathing, but somebody else has been scooping up all of the little aggro fire breathers, or fire benders, I should say. So we couldn't really do anything particularly aggressive here. Although we've got enough 2-drops now, I think I could take another Fire Nation Engineer over a 3rd Fire Nation Raider. These both seem pretty filler. Take the cheaper one, I guess. More 2-mana creatures to play before a turn 3 Fire Nation Engineer when I have 2 copies of that card. I don't think we got there on the Bounty Hunter's splash. We just have a single piece of fixing. Actually, we don't even have one piece of fixing because this is not an ally. Yeah, I don't think we got there. I mean, there's barrels of blasting jelly. I guess the barrels is our one piece of fixing to try to do that. Okay. Cut 6 cards out of here. I like run a million 2-drops to curve into engineer. Get some low and late game value. Just run a million removal spells primarily. With double Swamp Cycler and a million 2-drops, I don't mind just cutting lands 1 for 1 for the Swamp Cyclers. Because we've got a hand with a bunch of 2-drops, then we can miss some land draws. And if the game is going to go long, we can Swamp Cycle these. It might be a little bold to go 1 for 1. Like, we could cut like this and one of these and play 16 lands. But I'm going to go all in on it. I'm going to cut 2 lands here. And we're much deeper into black than red. We have 16 black cards and 9 red. We're currently on 8 black sources, 7 red sources. If I'm cutting down to 15 lands, I probably shouldn't play the 5-mana Mana Sink in a deck that has very few allies, because we're going to get punished more by having a colorless source and not being able to hit double black or not being able to hit red than we are going to get rewarded by having that Mana Sink. Yeah, I feel like the colorless mana is going to hit us more often than the Mana Sink is going to help us. So we'll do that. But then we need to go deeper on black than red for sure. This is 9 black sources, 7 red sources, which is still maybe a little bit more leaning towards black than it needs to be, but we have double Swamp Cycler to account for as well. That can also be additional black sources, and some of our red cards are very cheap. We have 3 2-mana red cards, we have 3 1-mana red cards. We do need the red mana in the early game as well. We don't want to go super lopsided on it, so I think 9-7 makes sense here. It is completely impossible to keep any hand that doesn't have a black source in it. Whereas there are a couple hands we could draw that we'd be okay with not having the red in the opener. But it's still, again, heavy enough on red and has cheap enough red cards that ideally we do want to hit both colors every time. But in a pinch, sometimes we can function without red. We can never function without black. So we'll go 9-7 on it, call it a deck here, hop in gameplay, see how well this one can do. All right, here we are starting off game number 1 with a forced mulligan. Sadly, as we were saying when we were building this deck, we just can never keep a hand without a black source in it, so I'm going to mull down to 6 here. This is a lot better. We've got a 2-3-4 curve as well. Would I rather get a clue token and a 4-2? Or get multiple allies mount and an Earthbend? I mean, the immediate impact of Fire Nation Raiders is larger, but the overtime impact of the cave may be better. I'm going to actually go for the cave. I mean, we've got the Disciple to go with those 1/1 tokens as well. Disciple, Cave, and Fire Nation Engineer, like, if uninteracted, which is not that likely, but if they're completely uninteracted with, it's a nice synergy there where we keep sending in the little 1/1s unblockably and buffing them up. Spread out those +1/+1 counters all over the board. It's going to be the red-black mirror match here, the Rakdos mirror match. It's a pretty brutal start for us, all things considered, because we had a mulligan down to 6, and our opponent immediately cast a discard spell on us as well with the Corrupt Court Official, so we are quite behind when it comes to card advantage here. Already basically out of spells to cast. We have one Firebending lesson in our hand. But the Cave of Two Lovers can do some stuff to make up for that. Send in the Treetop Freedom Fighters. I will take the 1-1 for 2-1 trade. There's Fire Nation Raider, so the attack was to get the clue token. Firebending lesson is the draw. That's terrible. I don't think it would be insane to hold on to this mount in case they have a second Corrupt Court Official, but I'm not gonna do that, because now I can kick one of these for 5, which is important. Would lose my 2-2, so I couldn't give that unblockable anymore, but I could still keep giving the Fire Nation Engineer unblockable off this attack. Okay. Let's keep it here. Let's trade a Firebending lesson to those two to keep the token out. I think we're actually just juicing the Disciple so that even if they cast a removal spell on Fire Nation Engineer, we can keep doing unblockable nonsense. They crack the clue. Play a land and a Messenger Hawk. That'll be a 1-2 on blocks because they can't afford to crack the clue. So we'll go ahead and Firebending lesson the 4-2, animate the land, attack all. Should be a huge attack next turn. Do that right now in case we cast something. Next turn, which we will be casting something because we drew Azula on the hunt. Triggers whenever Azula attacks only. Okay, there's the concession from our opponent regardless. Just double checking to make sure I don't need to Azula pre-combat. So that's going to be attack all. Really rough position. They chump the 4, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I resolve an Azula and get a +1/+1 counter wherever I want. Really, really nice synergy that game. Great way to start us off there. The Fire Nation Engineer comboing with the Deserter's Disciple to make sure we can really easily keep those raid triggers going and getting those counters on the board. Beautiful stuff for game number 1. Here we are now on the play for game number 2, and this is a mono black hand this time around. That is so cool. Oh my god, that Appa is sick. So I have to buy the Mastery Pass now, is what you're saying. Oh my god. Yeah, that's incredible. Our top deck was immediately a Mountain, which is beautiful. Now this hand's looking really good. We don't have the 2-mana creature to play to curve into the Fire Nation Engineer and get those raid triggers immediately. So that's a little disappointing, but overall still looks like quite a good start. I'm just going to go ahead and Heartless Act the Cadets here to stop them from getting the Ascension trigger. I guess it doesn't actually have any Firebending by itself. Well, it'll still stop the damage, and then we trade into the next one with Ruffians here. Yeah, I forgot this doesn't have a trigger until there's a lesson engraved. So yeah, we probably could have just killed the 2-2 in the end step. But try to stop the Firebending Ascension from getting triggers so that they don't get to double up their attack triggers later in this game. Yep, there's the Firebending lesson, so the 1-2 would have been a Firebending 2 card, and they could spend that mana to make it a 2-2 each turn. They hit the Dragonfly Swarm here. This is a scary start. that soldier's going to keep triggering Ascension. We don't really have a lot we can do here, even if we like swamp cycle towards 4 mana. It's not like the Cave of Two Lovers does a whole bunch here, so we'll just get the 2/3 down that theoretically holds back the 2/2. And I imagine they have more cheap removal. It's probably a very spell-heavy deck, being blue-red and having the Swarm. Sure enough, there's the Boomerang to balance our Fire Nation Engineer. Knowledge Seeker has some really good combos. Anything that draws a card, discards a card every turn is going to keep juicing that thing up. We do hit the land here to cast the Cave, which I think is where we're at now. 2 blockers immediately. Make sure that we draw land next turn. But we have only drawn 1 removal spell this game. Without another one very soon, we are going to die to Dragonfly Swarm. Luckily, though, our deck has a lot of removal in it. It has like 8 removal spells, I believe. So in theory, we should find one soon-ish. Go down to 10, clear out the Knowledge Seeker, but the card's really, really nice because even if you do clear it out, it pays for itself in terms of the card economy. Like, it dies and then you just draw another card instead anyway. Vindictive Warden. We top deck a 2/2. Play our land. Just drop a couple blockers is all I've got here. Nothing to do about the flyer in the sky. And they're going to be able to double up all of their attack triggers now, all their Firebending triggers. They have fully made it with the Firebending Ascension. Another clue token as well from that Fortune Teller. They can easily spend this Firebending mana on that. Let's see what they've top decked here, or what tricks they just have left over. Combustion Technique to save Vindictive Warden. Okay. Down to 6, top deck a land. Animate another land because the Menace here, we really need a high quantity of blockers, not a high quality. Feel like I need the clue. I kind of feel dead no matter what here. Because it's like if I attack with somebody to get the clue, I won't have the mana to immediately sack it, and I'll be tapped out. I take 3 in the sky minimum, go to 3 life. If they just activate this 3 times, I die. And if they play like land for turn, they have the 6 mana to activate twice. The Firebend is for 2. I guess they can't activate it 3 times in 1 turn, but I really don't see an out here. I definitely can't play Canyon Crawler. Then I'll have 2 blockers up, which means I could double block the Menace, sure, but then I take 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6 from this ability, right? 3 mana plus 2 and a Firebending. They have enough to kill me if I tap out for this, if they just attack all. Activate twice. I guess attack and play Fire Nation Raider is really kind of the only line here. And we go to 1 on board, which means if they hit basically anything, we're dead. Okay, looks like we may live another turn. There's very little that can get us out of this now. Fire Nation Cadets was the draw. Firebending Lesson can clear out the Dragonfly Swarm, but they have enough mana now that they can firebend us to death because they have 6 mana off of their lands and an additional 6 off of firebending triggers because of Ascension. So they can ping us 4 times off of the Warden. Yeah, I don't have any reach, so I can't firebending lessen the Warden. I'll just die to the Flyer. If I firebending lessen the Flyer, I die to the Warden. Yeah, that is game. I guess technically I can crack the clue and see if that changes anything, but I doubt it. It certainly does not, and now I'm even tapped out of Firebend lessening the Swarm, so we are dead. Although again, even if I had the full mana to kick it and pay the ward, we still die to the Warden instead. 1-1 it'll be. That was a very strong blue-red lessons deck from our opponent. So 1-1 heading into game 3. All right, here we are on the play for game number 3 now. We have a Firebending lesson on the defensive. Start our curve out with Deserters, Disciples, and we have Canyon Crawler at the top, or we can Swamp Cycle it at some point. Ooh, hidden archers here. Just run out a 3-1. I don't have a card I want to discard to draw right now, though. I'll just curve out Disciples. Because the archers also gets roadblocked by literally any creature. It's particularly bad if they play one of the 1/1s that has an enter the battlefield effect, like the Corrupt Court guy. But also there's like, if they're a white deck, they could have gone like Plains and then play the 2-mana 1/1 that comes with another 1/1. Either of those just demolish the archers. Black decks could have, yeah, that Corrupt Court official that makes us discard a card. Luckily they don't. They have Uncle Iroh, which plays pretty poorly here against our Firebending lessons. However, we can attack through Uncle Iroh already. And by not playing Firebending lesson, I get to play the Fire Nation Engineer instead, which is pretty big. So we're going to let Uncle Iroh stick around for a turn, but we're likely clearing him out next turn. And this is a hand where the Swamp Cycle on Crawler isn't even that hopeful, because what we really need is a second red source, more than anything else. Longfang's pretty strong. Every time one of their creatures or lands dies, they put a +1/+1 counter somewhere else. We did top deck that mountain I was requesting, which was very nice. So we can go unblockable on the Engineer. We can Firebending lessen the Iroh. And we can attack both and hit for 5 here. Well, I guess not quite. If I Firebending lessen Iroh, then they put a +1/+1 counter on Longfang and don't get to attack in there. I guess in that case, Disciple doesn't get in regardless. So we just send an Engineer and pass. Yeah, I guess I can Archers the Crawler away and see if we hit like Epic Downfall or something. Then I could Epic Downfall Longfang. Iroh becomes a 5/3. Or this only triggers off of graveyards. So if I get the Exile from Epic Downfall, then we just straight up attack. Okay, we did not get that. There's a 4/4 to attack into the 3/4 if they don't play another creature. So we can lessen Uncle Iroh out of here. Longfang's a 3/4. I can send a 4/4 into a 3/4. It's going to be Azula Always Lies. +1/+1 counter to a creature, -1/-1 to another. I hope it is, because then I can respond by playing Lesson. Ah. It is, but they're putting the +1/+1 counter on Longfang, which gets around the whole lesson here. I'm still going to do this before they untap and play a bunch of lessons for cheap. So they'll have one very big Longfang. That would be an aggressive attack. And so they are backing out of that. They are not going to do that. Untap the land and see if they have another trick. Because if they don't, this wipes their whole board and we just slam everybody in. Sold out to exile our engineer. Fair enough. Still hit for 6 here, have their life total and pass. They're dead to 3 unblockable hits as well, even if they play 1,000,000 blockers now. They play no blockers and we attempt lethal. And achieve it. That is 2-1 heading into game number 4. Alright, here we are on the play for game number 4 now. Solid opening hand. Find a Firebending lesson. Let's start with the most expendable creature here. Dinosaur lands. 3 toughness. That's too big for Firebending lesson. Go ahead and Heartless Act here or just play a creature. Seems spooky enough to act. We're now 1 land away from being able to do everything because the Cave of Two Lovers will get the 5th land for Low and Lee. So best draw in our deck is just a mountain or a swamp here at this point. Uh-oh. So you can cast allies from out of their graveyard, essentially. They have to exile an ally from their graveyard and then attack and cast that ally. So currently there's no allies in their grave, so it's actually not the scariest card ever. It's just a 3/3. And here's another 2/2, so we could theoretically double block their 3/3 with 2 2/2s. Unfortunately, though, we did not hit the land there, just play a 2/2 instead. Might removal spell the merchant and then like exile it from grave. Oh, never mind. Their removal spell already exiles it. Fair enough. Send in the rider, poke for 3. No blocks. There is the Swamp Cycler. Can Firebending lessen their Deserter's Disciple, but a trade with that is just bad for us because they'll just recast it. And when they recast it, it doesn't come back with a finality counter or anything, so they can repeatedly recast it over and over and over, so it's really bad to trade anything into Deserter's Disciple right now. Can block their Rioter and then end step Firebending lessen it. We do 2 for 1 ourselves, but we've got our own 2 for 1 coming up with Low and Lee. It could be worth it. Never mind, that is no longer an option. Removal spell our blocker away. Jam 5. Can Firebend lessen this Disciple praying to top deck a land, but if I shoot this and don't top deck the land, they just recast Disciple next turn. It's mega bad. Mountain Cycle a Mongoose Lizard for their extra Firebending mana. take 5 of them at 12, play the cave, go to 7. I think I have time, but like just barely. Didn't hit the land, so it would have been very bad to lessen the disciple. Here's the cave. I'm incredibly surprised by no attacks with Deserter's Disciple, because that is an ally. I'm also very happy with that as well. So we are now going to Firebending lessen the Rock Rioter for the kicked 5 mana. Send both. Okay. Even if I blow up Deserter's Disciple, because this targets a player separately, it will still have a legal target. The spell will resolve. Sometimes you can counter the entire spell by killing one of the targets, but that's only if the spell only has one technical target. So we can't counter this by killing Disciple, so we will instead double block Disciple for the trade into the Menace, and Firebending lessen the Rioter. We still stop all of the damage, kill their whole board. It should be very advantageous if they don't have an additional trick here. It looks as though they don't. That's incredible. They're down to 1 card in hand, and now we can cast a Low and Lee and have life-linking Firebending lessons. Not only that, but 2 life-linking Firebending lessons in our hand. Sure. Tap our swamp. It's already tapped. That's fine by me. I'm just going to grab the life-linking removal over the Azula here. We have plenty to cast. Other than the Azula. There's the Cavalry, which is Exhaust 8, so I can shoot it for 5, gain 5. We'll do that rather than Downfall, because there could be a 6 toughness creature in the future we can't lessen. Nice. They hit the land off the top. Let's go ahead and get our clue token. Lands on my right. Aw, why is it so quiet? How do I turn it up? Voice all the way up? I got the voice line and then it's super quiet. Alright, there goes my 2/2. No more lifelink on the lessons. Draw. Find Epic Downfall. We are super safe here. We just go jam jam. This game was gross stuff from our deck, and they are really flooding out. Where's the GG? There. They have 1 final draw step. Fire Nation Cadets is not going to do it. And that is 3-1 heading into game number 5. All right, game 5 now on the draw. Great opening hand. It didn't actually start with a mountain, and it was still an excellent hand. Top decking the mountain makes it pretty much perfect. Canyon Crawler has been a pretty massive underperformer. We've basically always just wanted the swamp without having to tax ourselves for the swamp. I think I'm ditching the Canyon Crawler on this turn here. Turn it into a mountain. Hey, being able to mountain cycle the Canyon Crawler, that's value. Freedom Fighter's pretty good against the Union Archers, because that 1/1 token is just not gonna be good to attack into or anything like that. Ruffians, we just gotta hold off on the defensive here. We cannot Epic Downfall a Deserter's Disciple. The card is too low mana value. Oh boy, we can absolutely Epic Downfall the Sun Warriors, and we do really need to as well, because that card is massive. Sure. This has a death trigger, so it's not the worst. Heartless Act can get rid of the Disciple. So we can Epic Downfall and Heartless Act here. And then 3-1 for 2-1. Sure, yeah, I gotta do that while they're tapped out. Kyoshi Warriors also great against the 3-1, so very happy I took that trade instead of saving it around to just get demolished by another 1-1. That's why I'm like really low on the 3-1. Again, as I was saying before, the tokens. The tokens, the enter the battle for the effects, all that kind of stuff. It's just not good for it. I'm not going to Epic Downfall 3-3, so let's just run out enough creatures to go for a double block and pass through. Judy plus Merchant of Many Hats is a nice combo, but I can't imagine they don't have some way to interact with that and stop us from doing it here with 4 extra cards in their hand still. Path to Redemption is actually terrible right now. Yeah, unless they also have remove for Judy, which unfortunately they did. Yeah, that's rough, buddy. Play a land. This doesn't do anything on blocks, might as well have for 2. I guess it holds the 1-1 off. Yeah, no, I probably should have still just held the 1 damage off. It's not often that it's worth it to choose not to deal 2 to them, just to not take 1 damage yourself, but I think we're far enough behind it actually is worth it right now. To deal 2 less damage to them just to take 1 less damage. Oh, Jesus. Double creature still. So awkward. I'm going to have to downfall 3-3, but they are out of cards in hand now. Now we just die to the double Disciple combo in 5 swings. 5 swings at 2 damage a pop. Yep. Take 2. They can get their 1-1 off of this Path to Redemption now. And we draw a land. It's starting to look like the one game I actually would have cast Canyon Crawler, which is super awkward, but that's just how Magic goes sometimes. It's not the greatest here, because it forces the attack, which is super awkward this low on life. They've only played 5 lands. Earth Kingdom Jailer, yep. Removal on Fire Nation Raider, we go to 1 on this board. They got a combat trick? Nope. We remain alive for a millisecond. Could still barely win off of low and lead. What on earth has Forecast in this set? That's got to be something off the bonus sheet. So we're just going to get demolished by a bonus sheet rare anyway. We are dead. I can Heartless Act the Jailer and get a blocker, and then I have two blockers up, but they have 3 attackers, so we still take 1. And die. I'm very interested to see what their Foretold card is here. Technically I should block like this, but again, it's lethal regardless. Okay. What on earth has Foretell in this set? Oh, Sozin's Comet? Never mind, that is not a bonus sheet card. Very narrow one. You basically get just a bajillion mana during your combat step 1 turn. Alright, here we are for game number 6. We are 3-2 right now, and this is very sketchy. No red source, 3 red cards in the opener. Do you think I have to mulligan that? Without red, we cast 2 spells. So I guess, I mean, I'm on the draw, and we have at least 4 draw steps to hit a mountain. And the hand is very good if we do hit it. We will take that gamble and keep it over the gamble of just immediately starting down a card here on the mull to 6. It's just guaranteed being down a card and having the possibility of still not having the right colors. Alright, Deserter's Disciple gets quenched.
It's the quenchiest.
Alright, they pass through. We've had very good draws so far. I think I'm just going to keep playing the Disciples against Blue-Red, because Blue-Red can have a lot of cheap little counter spells, cheap little burn spells and stuff. Play our most expendable creatures first. Alright, our opponent AFK'd out of that game, and we get a freebie on that. We are 4-2, heading into game 7. Okay, here we are on the play for game number 7. If we draw one of our 2-mana creatures, this hand becomes incredible. If we don't, it's definitely awkward. We have 2 different raid creatures that really need us getting attack triggers. But it's certainly not mulliganable, because we also have 2 removal spells. We have both of our colors. We have great stuff to do turn 3 onward. Okay. I'm going to Firebending less than a 2-1. We did draw the 2-mana creature, but sadly we drew the 2-mana creature on turn 3. Womp womp. We just play Fire Nation Engineer. Could have gone Mountain Disciple to hold up Firebending Lesson, but again, I really don't want to just shoot a 2-1 that has other abilities. If a triggered ability of an ally you control triggers, it triggers an additional time. Very cool ability from Katara here. So she's going to be very dead. We're just going to Epic Downfall her and drop it Deserter's Disciple. There's Hakoda, Selfless Commander, 3/5 Vigilance. They can cast allies off the top of their library. They can sack it to give everybody else +0/+5 and indestructible for the turn. Terrifying card that we will certainly Firebending Lesson as soon as we hit our 5th mana, but we are not there yet, so need to get our raid trigger for Fire Nation Raider. And pass from there. So poke for 2 with unblockability from Disciple, get our clue token, and that's it for the turn. There's the Bender's Water Skin for a mana rock, mana of any color. They play the Path to Redemption on the Fire Nation Engineer, which doesn't stop its ability. But they will be able to spend 5 mana to exile it later. We do hit Epic Downfall to exile their Hakoda here. So since I didn't hit the 5th mana for Firebending lesson, that will certainly be the play. Let's deal with Hakoda. They can respond by sacrificing him so that he's in the grave instead of exile, and they can get 1 good block out of Poxbearers instead. So it might have been worth attacking first there. These are both 3 toughness though, so we can still send in and get 3 damage in. Yeah, I do really want the raid trigger, so let's do so. And then just draw a card off this clue, but I'll hold up the Firebending lesson mana here. I'm going to keep making the Fire Nation Raider larger, because Deserter's Disciple has a relevant ability, even if it's not big enough to attack in. But the Raider is just raw stats. Alright, well there's the Firebending lesson target, so may have been right to hold this up instead. And that is gonna be, because that's gonna be 2 enter the battlefield triggers for a double Earthbend if they want it. Let's say no to that, blow up the Haru. Got the Firebending lesson here if they don't block Fire Nation Raider with enough creatures. I just put the 3/3 in the 1/1, then we can just eat the 3/3, and that is the play. Keep the 6/4 out. Beautiful. And we'll just drop the Ruffians and start putting counters elsewhere. Spreading our stats around. There's a Vinebender. It's a 4/3. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and they can Waterbend 5 to put a counter on it. But only during their turn, so they can't put a counter on it during our turn despite having the mana to do so, off of like tapping Poxbearers here. So 4/3 for the 6/4 still is good though. Crack the clue and see if that changes anything. I suppose I technically shouldn't have played the tap land yet, because I could discard it to archers, but 5th mana is still not relevant. We draw into Sold Out, which we can't afford right now. I think we are in a good position to just send in the team here. Take these trades and still be head-on creatures. Certainly putting the counter on this archers so that it can get through the 1/1. They will get another 1/1 from their path if they want, but they might have an instant to hold up here instead. Suppose we'll find out here. If not, I think they should have just activated the path. So they go down to 1 life. I'm just going to hold up Sold Out at this point. Okay, concession from our opponent. Fair enough. They basically just gave up there earlier is why they didn't sack the path, I suppose. That is going to be 5-2 now, which means we're in the money out of this draft no matter what. We are leaving with more gems than we spent to enter. All right, here we are on the play for game number 8. We got turn 2 Disciple into turn 3 Fire Nation Engineer. Great starting curve. Green, white. So it could be allies stuff from our opponent here. Pass through with 3 mana up. Don't have any instants to play here. We just jam and hope they don't either, but we'll see what they've got. Certainly don't know the set well enough to know what this could be here. Aang's Iceberg. The Oblivion Ring, but it's instant speed. It could be better to play Fire Nation Raider for mana efficiency there. Use all 4 of our 4 mana. But I can't resist playing the second engineer. It's very funny. And it is more stats on the board over time. Dang, they had the Aang to get rid of all the counters on the Deserter's Disciple. But now Firebending lesson. The Aang for 1 mana. It's going to be beautiful. We drop our Raider here. Make the most of all 5 of our mana for the turn. That was a very good draw. Earth Kingdom General, multiple blockers off of the 1 spell, and some life gain. It is huge against an aggressive deck like ours. But we can downfall the General so they can't block the Fire Nation Raider or the Engineer well. Unless they have the 1 mana +2/+2 trick in hand. In which case it's still a 2-for-1 in our favor. Here's Ruffians. Give that a little buff. Earth Kingdom Soldiers. Now they have a 3/3 and a 4/5. Very big blockers. Land off the top. Let's see what our clue token can find us. Finds us another Deserter's Disciple. We can double those up and then start getting unblockable attacks in every turn with the Engineer if they don't have the removal here. Crazy to trade off the Fire Nation Engineer. I don't think so, because then we get the +1/+1 counter on the Ruffians to have another 5 power creature that can attack into the soldier next turn. United Front. Oh my lord. 5 2/2s and a +1/+1 counter on the soldier.
That's rough, buddy.
Can double block and lose Fire Nation Engineer here. Yeah, just lose one of the 2. Yeah, I think we lose Engineer here. Because I can't make a 3/3 unblockable anyway, so we're getting diminishing returns from the +1/+1 counters by now, and they have this many 2/2s regardless. Good draw. So we just need to hit them 4 times now. Glider Kids in the sky. With a Scry 1, scrying to the top immediately. Fastest Scry in the West. I am not excited to see what they're about to top deck. It is likely tremendously bad for me. Could send in the Ruffians to get a 2/2. They trade off. I probably should have been sending in with the Ruffians these last 2 turns. Oh, it's Kyoshi Warriors. That was a quick scry for a non-lethal draw. Is there any reason not to block the Pox Bearers here? I could be missing something, but I'm pretty sure there's no reason. Just eat our food while we have all the extra mana. Okay, they got 1 more turn to get out of this. Let's see what they got. Land off the top. That is lethal. Block there, not dead. Into the GG. Should have given him the That's Rough Buddy back earlier. That was a lot of lands in the end, but the unblockable work from those deserters' disciples. I keep saying that really weird. I don't know what is going on in my brain. I swear I know how to say deserters' disciples. But alas, we are 6-2 now, heading into the final boss of this draft. Whether we win or lose, this will be the final game of Magic for today. Always the most exciting when the final battle is at 6-2. So, pretty hyped to get into this final boss. We got a 2-color opener here. We're on the draw. Judy starts us off along with Deserter's Disciple and a Heartless Act for early removal. I'm going to keep this. The Cave of Two Lovers. We're almost definitely going to have to Swamp Cycle Canyon Crawler, to where it's just a swamp that also cost us 2 mana, so just a much worse version of just running the swamp instead. Although the archers now can ditch it and draw. I'm going to go ahead and Heartless Act their audience before they get any mana out of it, because they're already on the play. They're already casting like 3 mana creatures while we have 2 mana up. And we have the possibility of missing lands where they're even farther ahead on mana, and then that plus a mana dork is going to put us just astronomically behind. So let's see. I feel like I Swamp Cycle this Crawler and maybe Archer something away here. So I'm not going to lead Archers. I'm just going to Swamp Cycle and play land for turn guaranteed, instead of gambling on top decking land per turn. They did miss a land draw themselves. They did not have a 3rd mana turn 3, so they were likely relying on this audience, which makes that Heartless Act play look genius. So I'll take it. Discard June here. I don't think June's like actually that good in this deck. I mean, June's good with the Cave of Two Lovers, but so is Judy. Judy and June here are a little redundant. It's one of the two for sure. I'm gonna keep the Judy. We did not hit land for turn this time. There's Lightning Strike thanks to their barrels of jelly, giving them the red. Here is land 3 for our opponent, and the Earth Village Ruffians. There's land 4 for us, and the Cave of Two Lovers. Destroy the cave. Well, still excellent value out of it. Get 2 1/1s and destroy a naturalize. This only triggers when it dies, so having the removal that specifically exiles it is really nice, but I would also like to just get my Raider attack. I think I can wait on my Raider attack to make sure they don't get the creature out of that. Play a Judy to go with our 1/1s. Kyoshi Warrior. I do need a 5th mana to deal with her now, which is a rough part about having used the downfall. Attack all. They've just got a 1/4, so they kill a 1/1. And then play Fire Nation Engineer or Fire Nation Raider. kind of think I'm going to go for the engineer here. Because if I go for Raider, then if I miss the land next turn, I still can't Firebending Lesson next turn, so I still have to wait 2 turns to Firebending Lesson either way. If we don't top deck the land immediately. Summon Ski for 2. I guess 3 here. We hit the land, let's go. If I blow up the forest instead, I hit for 6, but I'm letting their really scary card stick around. This is an 8 removal spell deck, so I'm gonna go full aggro with it. Ooh, the Rock-a-Lanche with the flashback as well. Double Earthbend a bajillion. Super strong. It's one of those mono-colored build-arounds. Yeah, that is nasty. Well, we're walled off pretty well by that. Swamp Cycle, play a Raider. Get them down pretty low. Probably kill the engineer and go to 4. This is going to be a super close game. Foggy, Swamp, Vinebender. And pass, hold off on blocks. Lowen Lee picking up a lifelinking Firebending lesson is pretty cool. I could also play the Deserter's Disciple though. I'm guaranteed hit them down to 2 next turn. Which is also pretty good. I guess they could Blasting Jelly the Disciple. I'm gonna Lowen Lee a Firebending lesson. Could attack him with Raider. I lose the Raider and the Firebending lesson to kill the forest. It doesn't feel quite worth it. So here they can barrels somebody, or they can flashback, make a gigantic creature, or play something that we don't know about. And they're going to play something we don't know about. Play the Ostrich Horse. I don't hate just Firebending lessening that horse, so I don't have to do a 5-mana Firebending lesson on something else. Spend all my mana next turn on more creatures instead. Yeah, I'm just gonna clear out the horse here. Oh my god, what a draw. That single mountain is really hurting us right now for sure. If I blow up their forest, I've got an attack with Fire Nation Raider. I think I'm blowing up their forest here. So I'm also gaining 5. And we Judy the clue away to go wide. Because all of our creatures are at least 2 power, so if we end up with 2 more creatures than our opponent, then we win. I'll keep the second red. Despite the amount of lands I currently have, being able to play 2 spells in 1 turn is pretty important. Earth Kingdom General. That is a lot of life gain with that Rock-a-Lanche flashback. That's going to be a gain 5 or 6 if they top deck another forest. So unfortunately, we don't have lethal here. We can send in the 3/3 Judy and then play Fire Nation Raider and Disciple, and then they're gonna gain a bajillion life. If we attack all, the Vinebender's gonna eat a 2/2 for free, but we're at 20 now off of Low and Lee. So they get 1 free kill. Trade. Chomper go to 3, but then again they're gonna gain like 5 life, so it's not really worth it. Since they're gonna gain most of it back. This feels like attack with only Judy. To get our clue. To get another Judy. Because they don't have a particularly good block for Judy, right? They can go 4/3 on the 3/3, or they can lose 2 of their creatures. Or they could lose only 1 of their creatures, but if they do that, the 1 creature they're going to lose is the one that gains them life. It's a pretty important creature here. Surveil and get a 2/2. Find Epic Downfall. It's not actually incredible on this board considering it can't hit lands. But it is still going to be a keep here. It would have been really good as the draw last turn to clear out the general before it gained a bajillion life. But now that they've already used the hard cast and the flashback of the Rock-a-Lanche, I think we just clear out the 4/3 instead anyway. Clear out the 4/3 attack all. They block 2 creatures. They block the 4/2 and a 2/2 and take 8. They're dead in 2 swings. They can removal spell one of our 2/2s, block another one, and take exact lethal. So unless they drew like a 2-mana creature, a creature that is cheap enough to cast while also activating the barrels, they are dead on board. True Ancestry. Return a permanent from grave to hand. So get the lifelink 1. So that is another blocker and gain 2 and go to 6. Wow. That was an exceptional draw. Alright, well, we're right back to square one. Still got the lead here, especially off of the Deserter's Disciple as the draw. But we gotta do some surveilling here, majorly now. Get rid of that mountain. Crack the ally. I don't have any more lessons in this deck to give lifelink to, so we can also sack Lo and Lee. I guess if we draw Azula, Azula would have lifelink, but it's one card in the entire deck. Well, that. I guess I could just keep them just in case, because it's not like I'm going to activate 3 of these in one turn, probably. But I guess I could. They can just keep sacking each other. Kind of indefinitely. Oh man, that thing made a food token too? Oh, a clue token. Yeah, that True Ancestry was super good here. This card does seem quite good. I'm used to these kind of cards not being that good in draft, because it's usually like 1 and a green, return a permanent from grave to hand, period. But 1 and a green, return a permanent, and get a clue? That's a draw 2. That's a 2 for 1. You can get your best card from grave back. They are top decking like a champ. Now they've got a 10-3 Toph off the top. Or Toph, not Toph. This is bad. Take 6. Find another Judy. It is funny. Okay. Unblockable Judy. You have to do this 4 times. I don't think we have time. Mill a land again. Mill a land again. They're gonna barrels away Lo and Lee. That's surprising they shoot that instead of the Disciple. I don't think it matters though at this point, because we're dead in like 2 swings. Tough. And 6/6 Forest coming in. Well, I think I have to get rid of the 10-3. Go to 8. And it's still a land. Wow. A land afterward too. There's Heartless Act, which makes their 6/6 Forest a 3/3, which is not gonna help us enough here. But I think all of our removal's pretty bad against Earthbending, right? Because the other ones we can find now are Epic Downfalls that can't hit forests. Yeah, we're just straight dead. All right. So I could have hit them to 4 there. But then shove to 6/6, take 6, go to 2. Yeah, we don't outrace them here. Ruffians trump the forest. Ruffians trump the forest, take 6, go to 2. Guess. A removal spell that exiles would be disgusting. Okay, no removal spell that exiles. If they attack all here, they must have another creature in hand, because otherwise they're dead on the crackback. Okay, they're going to attack with 2 creatures. I think our best bet is probably lethaling them next turn, period, which would mean that it doesn't really matter where we block here. I think I'm supposed to block the 2/2 over the 6/6. Because then if I don't lethal them next turn, I have a slightly better chance of winning the long game. Because we whittle down the number of attackers they'll have on future turns. Warship is rough. There was one turn earlier where I did not go for the unblockable attack, but it was a turn where I would have only had 1 blocker up if I did, which means I would have taken well over 2 damage on that turn and we would have just been dead by now anyway. They'd be at 2 life right now, but I would be literally dead, so I don't think we could have done anything on that turn. Maybe there was something somewhere earlier where we could have gotten just a little bit extra damage. But we can't attack here. We're dead to top deck removal. And we're low enough on cards now, I don't think we have any outs. Because we just can't afford to tap 2 creatures for any attacks or we're dead. Crew the random 4/4. Attack all. Block, block, block. Zula would have gotten there if we had her much sooner. But definitely not at this point. That was a rough game. It was a long enough game, there were definitely different lines that we could have played throughout. So I know there was like a low and lead turn. I went and killed the 4/2 so that I could immediately play more creatures the turn after. Maybe we should have waited longer and tried to kill a bigger creature there. Just a bunch of stuff like that mainly. The land draws were pretty rough. Super gross this game, but that's not really something we can control. We're on a 15 land deck and we hit this Surveil clump. That was absolutely disgusting. Obviously that could have won us the game if just any of these were one of the removal spells sooner. But again, that's not something we can control. So the part that we could have done differently was mainly like choosing different targets for removal. I remember as the biggest plays throughout the game. I do not remember any point where we had a high enough life total to be able to have gotten an extra 2 out of Disciple without also having taken at least an extra 2 and just being dead before they would be dead regardless. So close game, and definitely a bummer to get that close to the trophy run here on our first draft of the set, but it was still a very, very good run. So I will take it. We'll take a look over the deck, talk about the biggest weaknesses and the biggest strengths of the deck, what I liked and didn't like. I really did not like the archers. We pretty consistently did run up against those 1/1 tokens, and there are other cards that make it quite weak, like the 1/1 Corrupt Court Officials. So I think there's a lot of cards that make 2 mana 3/1s kind of a hard sell in this set, in this format. So I didn't love that. And then the other card I didn't like, basically everything else in the deck I did enjoy more than enough, but the Canyon Crawlers. The majority of those games, these would have been better if they were just swamps, because we ended up having to swamp cycle them or discarding them to Union Archers or something. So there were a couple games there where these were like a swamp I had to pay 2 mana for, which obviously hindered us quite a bit on those games, having to do that instead of committing another blocker to the board early obviously could cost us a good chunk of life. So the canyon crawlers just did not feel like where it was at any point during the gameplay. So there was that. Just going for like 17 lands, no canyon crawlers was probably the better build. Cut these two, play another swamp, another mountain there. I think that's about it for stuff I didn't like with the deck. In terms of how I drafted, I think we did pretty fine. I'm sure there are cards that'll go up and down in my pick order as the format progresses, but loved starting with just a bunch of excellent black removal spells and taking whatever looked open from there. We wheeled a pretty late Firebending lesson during pack 1, so decided to just scoop up some more of those. This Cave of Two Lovers was great. Was pretty happy with how that played out. And then the Firebending lessons were excellent with the low end lead there. So heavy black deck here. A little bit of cool stuff from the red splash. This was a rareless deck, 0 bombs, just removal and decent synergy. And it still was able to get the 6-3 run here. Not quite the full trophy, but a really good run for a rareless deck. So more than happy with that as the way to start off the format. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.